Walter Tull was an orphan whose grandmother was a slave in the Caribbean. He went on to play for Tottenham Hotspur before becoming the first black officer in the British Army. He was recommended for the Military Cross, but he never received it and died in battle in 1918. His remarkable story inspired the warhorse author Michael Morpurgo's new book, Medal for Leroy, which he hopes will lead to a posthumous honour. Well, earlier I went along to the Spurs ground in White Hart Lane, where Walter Tull used to play, to meet the author and a member of the footballer-turned-army officer's family. I started by asking Mr. Morpurgo what made him put pen to paper.
First of all, was this enormous respect for this man, that was the first thing, and amazement at this whole question of the medal that he should have got. That's really, there's a sense of injustice about the whole thing that interested me.
But when you think that black officers weren't even allowed in the British Army, so how did he get around that?
Well, he had a very distinguished military career in that his talents were recognised very soon, and he got promotion first of all from corporal to sergeant very quickly, and then his commanding officer recognised that he was an outstanding soldier, much loved and respected by all of his men that he was together with, and so he was recommended for officer training, which he actually did in Scotland.
So turned a blind eye to his
yes,
colour.
as far as the records show, they ignored the military law at the time, which didn't allow a black officer to command white troops.
So I suppose it's fair to say that this is a novel written with a purpose. You want him to get a medal or a statue. How's the campaign going?
I don't know, we shall see, won't we? I think a book with a purpose is fine. I have a feeling that Charles Dickens, when he wrote Oliver Twist, had a purpose in mind. There's nothing wrong with literature, it seems to me, to shine a light on injustice and cruelty and poverty, and that's what I've tried to do.
In a way, the government's been a bit slow off the mark on all of this, haven't they? When you think that in the States, I think I'm right in saying, a black soldier died in the same year, 1918, and he was awarded an honour posthumously.
He was recommended for the Medal of Honour, Military Cross equivalent, and it was swept under a carpet at the time. And then I think in the 1990s, I think President Bush granted the honour, and his family went, I think, to the White House to receive it.
So if Bush can do it, Cameron can do it?
Well, you'd have thought so.
Well, talking about what Walter Tull stood for, he had to endure a fair amount of racial abuse when he played football, didn't he?
Well, I think the same kind of taunts and shouts that we see today were happening, in those days. Racial
abuse in football is in the news again. Mark Cattenberg, the referee, accused of racially insulting a Chelsea player. Are you surprised that so little has changed since Walter Tull's day?
I'm sad. I don't think I'm surprised. I think it really does take generations and generations for this kind of stuff to disappear, and the fight needs to be fought to make it disappear. It's not going to disappear on its own. With the next generation, I think we've always got to be thinking about the next generation. What we hope is that in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, such an incident as I saw on the field the other day at Chelsea, I have no idea whether it was racist abuse or not. But
you were actually there when the referee stepped in.
And there was a nasty atmosphere. You could feel things that had gone wrong in the match. It was a wonderful first half, and it all went sour, and it all went angry. And I have no idea what was said at all. But what you do know is that those are the circumstances in which this stuff bursts out like pus. And it seems to me that if you do have a book, I hope, like this, and like the other books that have been written about Walter and the films, it simply makes people more aware.
Well, earlier I called both Downing Street and the Ministry of Defence to ask them if they would honour Walter Tull. Just before we came on air, the MOD confirmed it would indeed look at doing so.